So today I'd like to talk about one of my favorite aspects of graphic design, and that would be designing layouts. Um, basically, a layout is to graphic design what composition would be to photography or painting. Now, good layouts are easy to follow. They provide cues to help readers find their way around the page. If the reader has to work at it, it's not going to get read, generally speaking. So you want to organize the information to make the message as clear as possible. You decide what you want the reader to see first, what you want them to see next, and so forth. Here, for example, you want them to see the headline, fulfillment, and the top graphic kind of draws the eye to that. So there you go. When creating a new layout, we begin with the basic elements of design, and they are line, shape, texture, space, size, value, and color. So I kind of think of the elements as if we were talking about cooking it, they'd be the ingredients. Now the principles of design determine how we apply the elements. So they would kind of be like the instructions in a recipe. There's 4 of them: balance, emphasis, rhythm, and unity. But I'll begin by talking about the elements. The first one is line. Now this can be literal or implied, created by the edge of a shape, for example. And they can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Quite fond of diagonal lines because they're a good way to create a sense of movement, and they do direct the eye, like the sunbeam here. And also these arms are kind of a diagonal line, really. Lines can be used to highlight or stress words. Not immediately obvious, but if you look at these green words here, they're kind of laid out in a diagonal line. To create a grid is the underlying structure of a page. It's not something the reader or viewer would see, but it's a tool we work with to make sure things line up properly: images, text, and so forth. And line, as with most of these elements, it directs the reader's eye. That's one of the most important functions. Okay, moving on, we have shape, and that's basically anything with height and width. Unusual shapes can be used to attract attention. Here's a good example of that, this whole top thing. There's basically 3 types of shapes: geometric shapes, for example, triangles, circles. These are regular and structured. They work well as building blocks. Natural shapes, such as animals, plants, or humans, these are more irregular and fluid. Abstracted shapes, such as icons or stylized figures, they tend to be simplified versions of natural shapes. With shape, you can crop a photo in an interesting way, ta-da, or symbolize an idea, also, ta-da. Next element is size. Well, surprise, that refers to something either large or how small or large, or tall or short something is. It's very important in making a layout functional, attractive, and organized. Size can be used to show which element is the most important by making it the largest. Okay. It makes all elements easy to see. It attracts attention. You can contrast 2 elements to create interest. So have a little guy standing next to a big guy, you get the idea. And finally, sizes can be used to establish a consistent look throughout a layout. Value. Now, value simply refers to the lightness or darkness of an area. This sunbeam is a great example of that. It's moving from light to a slightly shadier area and definitely directing the eye. And it suggests mood, creates drama, and the illusion of depth. We get that here too. Leading the eye across the page. Here as well. Create a pattern, emphasize an element, make objects appear to be in front of or behind each other. In this one, the trees are obviously behind the sunlight for an interesting effect. Okay, the last one I believe is color. Color in layouts can create moods, images, attract attention and identify objects. It can be used to highlight important elements such as headlines and subheads. See how the RNs, who the recruitment poster targets, is in bright yellow, tying in with the sunbeam too. Signal the reader where to look first, tie a layout together, organize, group elements together or isolate them. I like this kind of thing. Color can suggest an emotion or attributes. In both of these we've got some blues and greens that work, especially pertinent here, green. As I say, a recruitment poster for nurses. So green suggests health, appropriate, regeneration, contentment, and harmony. Blues suggest honesty, integrity, and trustworthiness. So this is for a multi-faith group to meet and talk spiritual stuff. Good attribute. To create balance, you can use one or two odd shapes and make the rest regular shapes. Lighten a text-heavy piece with a bright and colorful visual. Done a bit of that going on with both posters. And it's a good idea to leave plenty of white space around large blocks of text or dark photographs. And finally, we've got rhythm, basically the use of repetition to create a pattern. You see a bit of that here. But also, you want to include some variation or the rhythm can get a little static. You want it dynamic and not monotonous. One way to create rhythm is to alternate dark bold type with light thin type. These guys, yeah. Emphasis, okay, obviously that's what stands out or gets noticed first. Every layout needs a focal point to draw the reader's eye to the most important part. Too many focal points pretty much defeat the purpose. Generally, a focal point is created when one element is different from the rest. To create emphasis, you can use bold black type for headings and subheads, lighter text for everything else. Like that. Reverse type, i.e. white type or whatever the color of the paper is, with a headline out of a black or colored box. Here's an example of that, the white type at the bottom of the green graphic. And you can put lists or other important information you want to highlight into a sidebar or shaded box. That's kind of going on here a bit. And finally, unity, very important. Unity is what ensures that all the elements look like they belong together. Readers need visual cues to let them know the piece is one unit. So the text, the headline, the images should all go together. To create unity, it's good to use a grid, which I had mentioned before, underlying structure of the page, to line up photos and text. This one is quite basic, a 3-column grid. We work with that a lot, it's very versatile. Repeat color, shape, and texture. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, please remember this. Use only 1 or 2 type styles in anything, really. If you want variety, vary the size of those type styles or the weight of them for contrast or colors, but any more than a couple of fonts and it gets to looking dog's breakfasty. So, and be consistent with the type generally. So your font sizes and styles for headings, subheads, and so forth should be consistent throughout the publication or website. Use the same color palette throughout. Repeat a color, shape, or texture in different areas throughout. And finally, choose visuals that share a similar color, theme, or shape. And I guess that's about it.